Good morning. So with the passing of Pope Francis, I thought today we could shine a little light on one of his unfinished legacies, something that is deeply rooted in Barcelona, even though Pope Francis never stepped foot in the city. In fact, in all his years as pontiff, Pope Francis never made an official visit to Spain at all. But he held a deep interest in Spanish Catholicism. Spain is a country with a deep connection to the Catholic Church, going back centuries, perhaps most intensely felt during the reign of Queen Isabella and the reconquest of Spain from the Moors. Anyway, in his time as leader of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis became increasingly interested in the work of Barcelona's legendary architect, Antoni Gaudi. Very interested, in fact. So interested that one day we might be referring to Gaudi as Saint Antoni Gaudi. So today, as a nod of respect to the Pope and in anticipation of our upcoming visit to Barcelona, let's explore the work and legacy of Gaudi and his path to possible sainthood. Gaudi, known for his radical nature-inspired buildings and deep religious devotion, was born in 1852 in Reus, Catalonia. And like Pope Francis, illness in his formative years brought Gaudi closer to God. He was a pretty sickly child. He had rheumatic fever, and so instead of playing outdoors with other kids, Gaudi spent a lot more time in solitude. And it was in these hours of quiet reflection and observation that he developed his love for nature and geometry, which would go on to define his work. Pope Francis, a former nightclub bouncer of all things, deepened his spiritual devotion in his early 20s, following a severe bout of pneumonia, which led to the surgical removal of part of his right lung. As life went on for Antoni Gaudi, he became increasingly devout. He never married, he never had children. Perhaps his isolated childhood contributed to that sense of emotional detachment, but my goodness, as his life had impact. Professionally, Gaudi's achievements are nothing short of extraordinary. He became the face of Catalan modernism. He blended Gothic elements with organic forms drawn from nature. And over his career, he worked on more than a dozen major projects in or around Barcelona. Among them, Casa Batlló, with its colourful, bone-like facade, and Casa Mila, which is also known as La Pedrera, famous for its undulating stone waves and its sculptural chimneys. There's Park Güell, a failed housing project that was then turned into a public park where Gaudi's imagination just runs wild in tile and stone. And of course, the crown jewel, La Sagrada Familia, a basilica so ambitious that it is still under construction today, nearly 150 years later. But by the time he was working on the Sagrada Familia full-time, Gaudi himself was living in near poverty. He was sleeping on site, but he was dedicating every waking moment to his work and to his faith. In 1926, Gaudi died in a horrible accident. He was hit by a tram on the streets of Barcelona. And he looked so poor, so disheveled, that people assumed he was a homeless man. As a result, and this is tragically sad, because they thought that the man that was hit by the tram was just a random homeless man, no one thought to bring him to a hospital. As a result of his injuries and perhaps not receiving emergency medical care quick enough, Gaudi died a few days later. By this point, word had gotten around about the man who was hit by the tram. And 2 days after his death, Gaudi's funeral was held on June the 12th, 1926, at the Sagrada Familia, attended by somewhere in the region of 30,000 people. It's inspiring, and yet it is also a striking warning about prejudices. Not one of those 30,000 people was around to help what looked like a homeless man who just got hit by a tram. And yet this man clearly touched the hearts of many, many people, many millions since. Gaudi was laid to rest in the crypt of his masterpiece, beneath the chapel of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. His gravestone bears the following inscription: Antoni Gaudi Cornet, from Reus, at the age of 74, a man of exemplary life and an extraordinary craftsman, the author of this marvelous work, the church, died piously in Barcelona on the 10th day of June 1926. Henceforward, the ashes of so great a man await the resurrection of the dead. May he rest in peace. So Pope Francis thought Gaudi might be a saint. That might sound surprising if you're used to thinking of saints as martyrs or monks. But Gaudi's life, and especially his later years, does tick quite a few of the boxes for the Catholic Church that they look for in sainthood. But the process isn't quick, and it is not based on fame or global legacy either. It's actually a very formal, multi-step process to becoming a saint. And it all starts with a reputation for heroic virtue. What does that mean? A reputation for heroic virtue. It doesn't mean you fought dragons or you lived in a cave for 40 years. It means you consistently lived your life with deep faith, humility, and dedication to God. Not in big gestures, but in the way you approached your daily life. For Gaudi, this showed up in everything from his modest lifestyle to the way he poured his souls into those buildings. He didn't just design churches, he saw architecture itself as a form of worship. Every arch, every mosaic, every shaft of light was part of his spiritual offering. And so in 2003, Gaudi's case was officially opened by the Archdiocese of Barcelona. It took years of investigation, documentation, witness testimonies. And then in 2025, this year, under Pope Francis, the Vatican declared Gaudi venerable, which basically means that the Church recognizes that he lived a life of exceptional faith and moral integrity. And that's the first major step. To move to the next stage, beatification, you need a miracle. And not just any miracle, we're talking about something medically inexplicable, sudden, permanent. It's got to be clearly linked to prayers made to Gaudi specifically. And only after that comes the final step of canonization, and that requires a second verified miracle. So in summary, first you're declared a servant of God, then venerable, then blessed after one miracle, and finally saint after two. Gaudi's about halfway there. But with the momentum sparked over Pope Francis, many believe it's just a matter of time. So are there any artist saints already? Well, they're a rare breed, but yes. The most well-known is Fra Angelico. He was a Dominican friar, early Renaissance painter, and he was beatified by Pope John Paul II in 1982. He was praised for combining technical brilliance with deep humility and painting only when he felt spiritually inspired. And then there is Saint Catherine of Bologna. She was a 15th century nun and a painter who was canonized in 1712. And she was known for her religious writings and her tiny, detailed paintings. But what really grabs people's attention about her is that her body is still on display in a glass case in Bologna, and it hasn't decayed. It's still there. But Gaudi would be the first architect ever canonized, and probably the first saint to be better known for bricks and mortar than for books or prayers. And that alone would make him pretty unique as an entry into the saintly lineup. Gaudi's made a huge impact on the look and feel of Barcelona, but he's certainly not the only famous artist with roots here. The other one that springs immediately to mind, and far less likely to be canonized, but monumental in the world of art, is Pablo Picasso. Pablo Picasso spent his teenage years in the city, and it played a crucial role in shaping his early style. And the Museo Picasso in Barcelona houses one of the most extensive collections of his early work, showcasing his skill as a draftsman. It's a different side of Picasso, less cubism, more classic realism. Picasso and Gaudi never collaborated. They couldn't have been more different. Gaudi was spiritual, reclusive, humble. Picasso was fiery, political, and fiercely secular. Yet both turned Barcelona into a canvas, each in their own way. So let's open the portal and explore their city, Barcelona. So here we go. We're going to be coming into Terminal B on this occasion, and we're going to be bum to bum with the Zuiderdam. So there you go. I think they'll be at sea. We're going to have an air bridge taking us off the ship on this occasion, and there will be a link across, so you don't need to leave the port facility to be able to go across between the two ships. I'm going to talk more about going between the two ships tonight at the Q&A. But you can see that this port is a real proper cruise ship port. Look at that. I even had to take my little logo off the bottom to fit it all in. Everything you could need is here in the port of Barcelona. The taxis will be zipping you around if you'd like them to. You can pay on card. There are fabulous toilets in this terminal. Absolutely. Try the toilets. You might want to bring back some of that toilet roll, actually. It's the triple ply. You got the buses. I'll talk more about the buses in a minute. Wi-Fi. Who's heard of that, huh? Wi-Fi in a port. Shopping in the port, tourist information. They've got telephones if you need them. There's a little cafe. And there's the ability to change some money if you would like to. Let's have a look on a map. So, we are going to be where the ship is, and this is the main cruise terminal. It's one of the biggest cruise ports in Europe, which is a blessing and a curse. We'll talk about that later. On the first day, and the first day only, we're going to have shuttle buses. So, we're going to have shuttle buses on the 24th of April. There were no buses available on the 25th. So, the last buses will be running through the night, but then they will stop. Again, we'll talk more about the logistics later on. But when they are running, so on tomorrow, we're going to have them running to the World Trade Center. That's about a 15-minute drive, but it's also a pretty nice walk. If you're walking along the waterfront, yes, it's going to take you somewhere around 30 minutes to 40 minutes to walk it, but it's a safe walk, it's a comfortable walk, it's quite an enjoyable walk. Let's go through our highlights. Let's begin with what is probably the single most famous road in the city, La Rambla. It is a wide, tree-lined boulevard that runs through the heart of Barcelona, starting at Plaza de Catalunya, heading down towards the old port. It's always busy. It's full of street performers, flower stalls, cafes, pickpockets. And I mean that, so keep an eye on your bag. Locals call it Las Ramblas because really it's made up of several different sections, each with its own feel as you walk along it. Now, I've marked it as a light blue line on the map. But on the day, you won't need a map to find it. Just follow the crowd, enjoy the walk. It is touristy, yes, but it's still worth seeing. Now, anytime you see a bright blue line on the map, you know that is La Rambla, so that you can sort of start to piece things together to that central road. So, we go from the most famous street to the most famous building, the Sagrada Familia. Gaudi started it in 1882, and no, it is not quite finished. But big news, in 2025, they are completing the tallest tower, the one dedicated to Jesus Christ. So it is finally starting to look complete. The outside is covered in sculptures and symbols. It's a little bit like a giant sandcastle. But inside, the columns stretch like tree trunks. The colored glass makes it feel like you're standing inside a kaleidoscope. You can book ahead to go in, or you can just admire from the outside, but it is jaw-dropping either way. And if you're really inspired by the work of Gaudi, you have got so many highlights to look for in this city. One of the big ones is Park Güell. It's up on the hills overlooking Barcelona. It's a little bit further out. It's about a half an hour taxi, but it's worth the trip. Originally, it was planned as a housing estate, but now it's this public park full of colourful mosaics, curvy benches, fairy tale buildings. And there's also the Gaudi House Museum, where he lived. The Gaudi Experience, an interactive exhibition nearby. It's quirky, it's quite peaceful here, and it gives you a totally different view of the city. But of course, Gaudi wasn't the only big shot artist with links to Barcelona, so Pablo Picasso spent his early years here. The Museo Picasso is the best place to see how his style developed. Now, it's tucked inside in the old town. It's inside a series of medieval buildings, which is part of the charm, actually. Gorgeous site. And the collection focuses on his earlier, more traditional work. So don't expect too many of those really abstract pieces. That's not what you're going to see here. What you see here is a great insight into how he became Picasso. If you like art, this is a must-see. Book ahead if you can. It is one of the most popular museums in the whole city. If you are out that way, you're seeing Picasso in the old city, then there is a really beautiful park that you really shouldn't miss. Ciutadella Park. It's Barcelona's version of a city oasis. It's just a short walk from that museum. There's a lake with rowing boats. There's a grand fountain, partly designed by a young Gaudi. Loads of space to just relax under the trees. It's also home to the city zoo. So if you're into green spaces, check out there, but also there are others. There's Park Joan Miró near Plaza España. There's Park del Mirador de Poble Sec, which is a hilly park with a great view right by where we're going to be dropped off at that World Trade Center shuttle bus stop. Talking of great views, if you like the idea of great views atop a hill, head up to Montjuïc Castle. This is an old military fortress. It's perched above the city, and it's got panoramic views over the port and the coastline. And you walk up if you're feeling energetic, but you could take the cable car, which is half the fun actually, or you could drive. The castle itself has a bit of history behind it, including a darker side from Spain's Civil War days. Now, there's not tons inside the castle, but it's the setting that makes it worth it. While you're up here, you can explore the Olympic Stadium too. That's built just around the corner, and the gardens that are just dotted around at the top of the hill. Really a gorgeous place to visit, and one that a lot of people miss because they go down into the downtown area, up La Rambla, and on that way, and they didn't look behind them. There's a lot to see there too. But let's go back to the city centre. Just on the other side of La Rambla, you're going to find the Gothic Quarter, or Barri Gòtic in Catalan. And this is the oldest part of Barcelona. It's full of narrow lanes, hidden squares, centuries-old buildings. You'll see Roman ruins tucked in between medieval churches. There's always a cafe or a tapas bar just around the corner. It's really a great place to just wander with no plan. Just soak it all in. Highlights in this part of town include the Barcelona Cathedral, Plaza Real, Plaza Sant Jaume, and then you've got the places where city politics play in. You've got shops, you've got cafes. It's wonderful here, but just be prepared to feel totally disorientated. And you just don't know which turning did you take. All the roads muddle in together, and just relax because you know that we're not back on board until the next day anyway. This one's great. I always like to look for something a little different. So if you're looking for an art museum that's a little different, perhaps you've been to Barcelona a few times before and you're looking for something you've not seen before, check out this chocolate museum. It's not so much like the chocolate museums of Central America, where it's all about how to make a delicious chocolate bar to eat. This is about recreating famous artwork in chocolate. Think Gaudi buildings or Disney characters or even football stars, all sculpted out of cocoa. It's small, it's fun, it's good for anyone with a sweet tooth, Just don't eat the decorations. But entry includes a bar of chocolate as your ticket. What is not to like? Now, it's been a few minutes since we spoke about an influential local artist, and boy, does this place have influential artists. The Fundação João Miró is dedicated to one of Barcelona's most beloved modern artists, and it's perched up on Montjuic Hill. The building itself is light and airy. It's worth seeing. It's an insult to the beautiful castle that's just next door. But inside is a massive collection of Miro's colourful, surreal works. There's paintings, sculpture, textiles, even early sketches if you're interested in that. It's not stuffy or serious. Miro wanted it to be playful. He wanted it to be accessible. So it's a nice change of pace from the busier city spot, and it does pair really nicely. If you're going up to see the castle, combine this into your trip up to the top of the hill. And now this last one. This one is something of a pilgrimage for football fans. Camp Nou. It's the home to FC Barcelona. It's one of the biggest stadiums in the world, and it is currently being renovated. The team's been playing their matches at the Olympic Stadium in the meantime, just up by the hill. But it's still worth visiting the site, because the real highlight right now is the Museu de Futbol Club Barcelona. It's open during the full construction, so you can go in there. You'll find their trophies, their jerseys, videos of legendary matches, tributes to legendary players like Messi and Cruyff. And even if you're not a massive football fan, it's a big part of the city's identity. It's a really fun place to explore. And when that stadium reopens, my goodness, it's going to be a big moment for the city. Here you go, all of them on a map. And let's be honest, a city as big as Barcelona doesn't just have 10 highlights. I tried to group some of them together when we're talking about, for example, the Gothic Quarter. There's a lot to see just in there. You could spend 6 hours just in the Gothic Quarter and still have more to see. You could turn this into a museum-centric trip, and you would still have 10 museums that you didn't get to see, if not more. You could turn it into a church tour, and you wouldn't see all of the churches of Barcelona in 2 days. It's a big, big place with so much on offer. All right, let's now head to Cádiz. Here is the gangway on Cádiz. It's a local gangway. It could be on either level. You can see they've got a couple of options. The steeper option is a stairway gangway. So hopefully we'll be able to use the lower option, but it does depend on tides and the position of the ship. But the lower one is the smoother one off the ship. Not much by way of facilities in the port, but there are taxis that will be waiting outside. Taking a look at it on a map. So we're on a little island, a little peninsula that juts off from the main block of Spain. And I'm going to focus my attention on the island itself that we're going to be docking into. We've got the most convenient dock on the day, so we're going to be at the one closest to everything, which is fantastic. Let's start with the heart of Cádiz, which is the cathedral. You really can't miss it. It's that grand building with the golden dome, right in the old town, near the sea. And it was built between the 1700s and the 1800s, so it's a bit of a mix. It's Baroque at the bottom, neoclassical at the top. Inside, it's light and airy. It's got these impressive chapels. It's got a lovely crypt. But the real highlight is climbing the bell tower. Climb up that bell tower and you get views that stretch across Cádiz out into the Atlantic. A wonderful spot for photos. And it's a really good way as well to get your bearings in the city. And so if you started with that, you've now got the lay of the land. But if you're looking for the best view in Cádiz, head to Torre Tavira. This is the highest point in the old city. It's one of the original watchtowers. And at the top, you're going to find something unusual. You'll also find something similar in Lisbon. It's a camera obscura. Now, this is an old optical device that uses mirrors and lenses to project a live 360-degree view of a city onto a screen in a dark room. It's a clever, low-tech way to see Cadiz in real time. But be warned, it's a bit of a climb up that tower. They are installing a lift, but it hasn't been completed yet. So right now, you've got to climb all the way to the top. It's really wonderful, and I'm going to talk more about camera obscuras when we talk about Lisbon. Castillo de San Sebastian sits right on the edge of Cadiz. It's linked to the city by a long, narrow causeway that stretches into the sea. And it was originally a fortress built to protect the coast. Now it's more of a landmark than it is a museum. But you walk around the exterior walls, you soak up the sea air, the views. It's rugged, it's atmospheric. It's even been used for films, actually. It stood in for Havana in a Bond movie. Entry's free, but parts are closed for renovations at the moment. But it's a great spot. The walk out there is half the fun. But if you're going to do it, wear comfy shoes, because you're going to be exploring the site. This place is gorgeous. Parque Genovese. It's Cadiz's most pretty green space. It's a peaceful park tucked along the seafront. It's not far from the old town. And it's got these winding paths with tropical plants, shady trees. There's a waterfall that's surprisingly dramatic for such a small city. And the locals come here just for a stroll, to relax. They let their kids loose in the playground. There's a little cafe here too. So it's a really nice spot to take a break from the sun. And it's beautifully kept. It's full of character. They really look after it. If you're walking along the coast, between the castle and the town, this is the best place. You just take a moment, just to wait here, enjoy it, soak it up. Oh, right in the heart of Cadiz's old town is Plaza Topete. Plaza Topete it's known for its colourful flower market. They've got rows of stalls on the street selling fresh blooms, all under the canopy of palm trees. Locals call it Plaza de las Flores. It's not its actual name. You won't find that on the map. But if you're asking for directions, you can ask to go to Plaza dos Flores. And just be there, just watch, enjoy the scents. But then just around the corner is the Mercado Central. This is the city's main food market. Lively, local, full of fresh produce slipping on the floor, fish, cheese. They do beautiful cheeses, tapas stalls in the market. So you can grab a bite, you can try some local sherry, just wander through. And if you're wearing the right shoes, then your shoes will soak up the scent of the market. And you'll be able to carry that with you on the rest of your cruise. Tucked away in a quiet street, the Oratorio de la Santa Creva is one of Cadiz's real hidden gems, especially if you love art. This is a small chapel with a big surprise. 3 paintings by Goya. And they're up in the upper chapel where the light hits them just right. And they show scenes from the Passion of Christ, but it's all in Goya's unmistakable expressive style. The oratory itself is split into 2 levels. The lower one is stark, atmospheric. The upper chapel is elegant with neoclassical touches. It's calm. This one's uncrowded, but it's genuinely moving, especially for fans of Spanish painting. Is it open on a Sunday? It's a church, so you might have to go for a service. But yes, it's not open as a tourist attraction on a Sunday. You are quite right. But it is an operating church. Museo de Cadiz is a great all-rounder. Part archaeology museum, part fine art gallery, part ethnography. It's set in a handsome old building in Plaza Mina, which is right in the city centre. The ground floor has some brilliant ancient finds, including 2 Phoenician sarcophagi, which date back to about 2,500 years ago. And upstairs you'll find works from Spanish artists, Zurbarán, Murillo, a few surprises in there too. You'll find a section on local traditions, puppetry, carnival. It's not huge. It's pretty well laid out though. It's reasonably priced. For some of you, it might even be free to enter. It's a solid pick. It's an interesting visit. But if you want to just take it as a beach day, Playa de la Victoria is Cadiz's main city beach. Wide, golden stretch, runs for about 3 kilometers along the Atlantic coast. It's clean, it's well kept, it's got that relaxed local feel, plenty of space to spread out. There's a long promenade that runs behind it, lined with bars and restaurants. You can grab a cold drink, usually some fried fish along the waterfront here. And the beach has all of the usual tourist facilities. They've got showers, they've got sunbeds, they've got lifeguards. It's accessible as a beach. Even in the summer, this one rarely feels crowded. It's a classic city beach. It's easy to reach. It's great for a swim, so it's perfect for a lazy afternoon. I think this one's interesting. Some of you are going to find this creepy. The Museo del Títere, or the Puppet Museum. It's one of Cadiz's most unusual, but I think charming spots. It's housed in a former barracks near Puerta de Tierra, and it's dedicated to the art of puppetry from around the world. And the collection includes marionettes, shadow puppets, hand puppets from Spain, from Asia, from Africa, from beyond. And there's a special focus, of course, on Cadiz's own puppet traditions, because they've got a carnival here, and the puppetry plays a big part in their local carnival. The displays are colourful, they're quirky, surprisingly detailed. It's family-friendly, but just as enjoyable for grown-ups. And best of all, entry is free. It costs to leave, but entry is free. It's rarely crowded. This is a proper hidden gem. A final one is not in Cadiz itself. If you are up for a day trip from Cadiz, Seville is just about doable. It's about 1.5 hours by train or car, and it is a long day, but it is totally worth it. If you've never been before, once you're there, start at the cathedral, the largest Gothic cathedral in the world. Then climb the Giralda Tower for views over the whole city. Right next door, you've got the stunning, Royal Alcazar with its Moorish arches, tiled courtyards, lush gardens. Don't miss a wander then through the Barrio Santa Cruz, which is the old Jewish quarter. You could stroll through the Plaza de España, one of the most photographed spots in the entire country of Spain. If you have time, check out the Metropole Parasol for a more modern view of the city, but only if you have time. Prioritize the old city stuff. And then the trains, they run pretty regularly. The station's only a short walk from the historic centre. It's an ambitious day out, but it's a rewarding day out. If you want to get away from the coast, this is a fabulous way to do it. Maybe the best way to do it is on an excursion, but there are still ways to do it independently if you prefer. Here they are on a map for you. Barcelona doesn't just display art, it breathes it. It spills into the streets, it wraps around buildings, it clings to balconies, and it dances across the plazas. Here, creativity isn't something tucked away in museums. It is baked into the pavements, into the facades. It's the way that the light hits the tiles at dusk. And that's part of why Gaudi's legacy feels so alive. He didn't just build buildings. He reshaped the city's soul. This is a place where the boundaries between the sacred and the artistic have always been a little blurry. Whether you're marveling at the surreal curves of Casa Batlló or catching a glimpse of a mosaic bench in Park Güell, there's a real sense that this city was imagined by someone with a wild sense of color and a deep reverence for form. Someone like Gaudi. And yet Gaudi wasn't the only hand at work here. Barcelona has always drawn and created artists. Dali passed through. Miro left his mark. Picasso, of course, got his start here. There's something about the air, maybe the attitude, that fosters that mix of boldness and reflection. Picasso and Gaudi never worked together. In fact, you'd struggle to find two more different characters. One was a spiritual mystic in threadbare clothes, the other a global icon with a sharp tongue and an appetite for disruption. But both made Barcelona their canvas. Gaudi pointed his gaze upward, designing for the divine. Picasso looked inward, pulling apart the human soul and rearranging it in paint. You could say that one reached for the heaven, the other dug into earth. But somehow, the city held space for both of them. And that's Barcelona's real gift. It doesn't ask art to be one thing. It lets contradiction flourish, the religious beside the radical, the ancient next to the cutting edge. And Barcelona's creativity didn't just spring up out of nowhere at the end of the 19th century. It's been forged by centuries of conflict, culture, and character. The Catalan spirit is famously independent, proud, poetic, politically awake. From 1939 to 1975, under the dictatorship of General Francisco Franco, Catalan language and culture was suppressed in Spain. It simply wasn't allowed. Catalan books and newspapers were censored or outlawed. Speaking Catalan in public could result in fines or punishment. It's not a uniquely Spanish story, the suppression of a minority, but Barcelona was the center of a distinctly Spanish twist on that, unfortunately, all too familiar 20th century state of affairs. But Catalan culture didn't disappear. It went underground into music, theater, graffiti, whispered conversations, and art. And when democracy returned to Spain, that creativity didn't just emerge, it exploded. Color, sound, shape, all out in the open again. And it's not just about the big names either. Walk through El Born or the Gothic Quarter, and you'll see street artists, sculptors, puppeteers, painters, all adding their own verse to the city's story. The city's most famous artist-architect becoming a saint would be a pretty impressive addition to that story. But as we've seen, the Vatican moves slowly on these things, and sainthood is a big call. But here's the thing. Most people in Barcelona aren't waiting on Rome. They already treat Gaudi like someone holy. Not in the incense and rosary sense, but in the way they speak of him, the way they protect his work, the way they draw meaning from the places that he shaped. And maybe that's the point. Whether or not the church ever officially calls him Saint Antoni Gaudi, the impact is already there. The Sagrada Familia isn't just an architectural marvel. It's a place that moves people. You don't need to be Catholic. You don't need to be religious to feel it. You just need to stand in that space. Let the colors wash over you. Just look up. Maybe that's the real miracle. In the end, this isn't about Gaudi or Picasso or sainthood. It's about what happens when a city values creativity, not as decoration, but as something essential. Pope Francis, who himself loved beauty and simplicity, seemed to understand that. By championing Gaudi's cause, he wasn't just acknowledging a talented architect. He was saying something bigger. That to build with love, to create with care, to honor beauty, those things matter. They bring us closer to God, or at the very least, they bring us closer to each other. Barcelona shows us that art doesn't have to be locked away to be powerful. It can be lived in, it can be walked through, it could be prayed under, or it could be sat beside with coffee. Whether you light a candle in the Sagrada Familia or you wander through the bold lines of a Picasso sketch, I hope you connect with it, that spark of something sacred. Not just in the churches, but in the streets, in the art, in the people who keep creating. Because in Barcelona, creativity isn't just a cultural feature. It's a kind of faith. And you can really feel it. Thank you.